imagine taking something like the Chrysler Building, turning on its side, putting it in a power plant that could power a large city, and then put a luxury hotel comparable with Waldorf Astoria inside. Now, during the late 19th and early 20th century, passenger ships, luxury liners, were the most complex technical achievements of their time. I'm really convinced that William Francis Gibbs is the equivalent of John Augustus Roebling, the builder of the Brooklyn Bridge, and of Frank Lloyd Wright, the great architect. And like Frank Lloyd Wright, Gibbs was largely self-trained. But these two quotes here give a very good sense of how complex these ocean liners were. Gibbs is a name that's not particularly well known today, but I believe he's someone who should be, considering his achievement. He was once listed on the cover of Time magazine during World War II for his efforts in building the U.S. Navy. As a naval architect and engineer, his firm, Gibbs & Cox, designed 70% of all ships built during World War II, including the Liberty ship and the Normandy landing craft. Gibbs would later say, "If my father had not gone bankrupt, I would not have amounted to anything in life. That gave me the drive to defy what people told me what I should be doing and to follow what I want to do." Gibbs ended up working his way through law school at his father's insistence. But soon after graduating, he realized, I can't do this. So he ends up reaching out to a very prominent admiral called Admiral David W. Taylor, who was chief instructor of the U.S. Navy. Admiral Taylor looks at this kid and says, "This guy can't do math to save his life. He needs a lot of catch-up work. But he has a photographic memory. He has passion. I'll teach him what he needs to know." Gibbs ends up becoming a very successful naval architect. He hires some very smart people. One of his business partners is Admiral David W. Taylor. And he also works very closely with his brother Frederick, who basically is the person who is the financial manager of the firm and keeps William Francis Gibbs, basically whenever his creativity gets a bit out of control, Frederick would keep him in check. William Francis Gibbs finally got his chance to design his dream ship in 1945. And the ship was fully booked on her maiden voyage, July 3rd, 1952. Had numerous celebrities on board. Vincent Astor and his wife Minnie were on board. Vincent Astor took a particular interest in this ship. He wore on his waistcoat a gold pocket watch that had been found on his father's body in the North Atlantic. His father was a victim of the Titanic. We also had Margaret Truman, the daughter of the president, on board with her friends. You also had Fritz Reiner, the conductor of the Chicago Symphony, David Sarnoff, the president of RCA. At 6:16 in the morning, as the band is playing and people are still partying in the ballrooms, the ship sails past Bishop's Rock and captures the transatlantic speed record for the first time in over a century. 35.59 knots, 3 days, 10 hours, 40 minutes, 10 hours faster than Queen Mary, and 4 knots faster than her best time. She drops off her continental passengers in Le Havre, France, and then the next day sails into Southampton Harbor for a triumphant reception. Thousands of British citizens are cheering the ship that just took away their beloved Queen Mary's record. One of the real joys of writing this book has been getting to interview the crew members who are still alive, including a few that were on the maiden voyage. Joe Rhoda told me a story about how he was working as a radio bellboy, delivering messages from the radio operator to passenger staterooms. And he's walking along the deck, and the ship is doing around 30 knots, and he sees a submarine conning tower pop up. And he looks at the submarine conning tower, and he says, "That ain't an ordinary submarine. This thing is cruising. This thing is really keeping up with us." Well, it turns out it's Admiral Hyman Rickover in the USS Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered submarine, trailing the SS United States on a naval mission, and then she flashes some lights from her Morse lamp and then goes down. Joe asks the radio operator, "What was she signaling to us?" The radio operator says, "Mrs. Rickover is on board and he wants to wish her a happy birthday." In February of 2011, the SS United States was saved from the scrapyard, purchased by the SS United States Conservancy with funds provided by Jerry Lenfest, a man who has done wonderful things for this city, and in a grand gesture of appreciation for what this ship meant to American history, he allowed the SS United States Conservancy, a national nonprofit, to purchase the ship and maintain it for 20 months. Jerry Lenfest's father was a naval architect and engineer who helped design portions of the SS United States, just one of millions of people who have a connection to the ship. But whatever ends up happening to this wonderful ship, I believe that the story of her still has the power to inspire and still has a lesson of the story of one man who dedicated his life to designing something truly beautiful, something truly extraordinary, at a time when we could build the fastest, most beautiful, and safest ship in the world, paint her funnels red, white, and blue, and name her the SS United States. And I believe she's come back to Philadelphia for a reason. Whatever ends up happening to her, she's come back to that same river only a mile away from where, in 1894, a little 8-year-old boy was inspired to pursue his dream. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.